When a fertility clinic reveals that the baby growing inside Clara belongs to Incheon's most dangerous mafia boss, her entire world explodes into a deadly game of power, passion, and survival. The confirmation email glowed on Clara's phone screen like a beacon of hope. 3 words that changed everything: pregnancy test positive. Her hands trembled as she read it again, then once more, just to make sure her exhausted mind wasn't playing tricks on her. After 2 years of failed IVF attempts, countless injections, and nights spent crying into her pillow wondering if motherhood would ever happen, the answer had finally arrived. She was going to be a mother. Clara pressed the phone against her chest and let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The coffee shop around her buzzed with the usual Seoul morning chaos, people rushing past with briefcases and expensive handbags, everyone too busy to notice the woman in the corner booth whose entire universe had just shifted on its axis. She needed to tell Minjun. Her fiancé deserved to know first, before anyone else. They'd been through this journey together, hadn't they? Every appointment, every disappointment, every promise that next time would be different. She grabbed her purse and practically ran to her car, her heart hammering with excitement. Minjun would be at their apartment. He'd taken the day off work, something about needing to handle personal matters. Perfect timing, really. She could surprise him with the news, watch his face light up the way it used to when they first started dating 3 years ago. Before the IVF treatments turned their relationship into a clinical procedure. Before the stress created distance between them that neither wanted to acknowledge. The drive to their Gangnam apartment took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Clara rehearsed different ways to break the news. Should she be casual about it? Emotional? Maybe she should stop and buy a tiny pair of baby shoes, make it memorable. No, that was too much. Simple and direct felt right. Just her, him, and the truth that would bind them together forever. She parked in the underground garage and took the elevator to the 14th floor, her smile refusing to fade. The hallway smelled like expensive air freshener and new carpet. Their apartment door was slightly ajar. Strange. Minjun always locked it, even when he was home. Security paranoia, he called it. Clara pushed it open slowly, calling out his name. No response. The living room looked normal. Too normal. Everything in its designated place, the cream-colored sofa perfectly arranged, the abstract paintings Minjun had insisted on buying still hanging at precise angles on the wall. But something felt wrong. The air carried a tension she couldn't name. She walked deeper into the apartment, past the kitchen where unwashed wine glasses sat in the sink. 2 glasses. Her stomach tightened. Voices drifted from the bedroom. Low murmurs, followed by a laugh she recognized instantly. Yuna's laugh. Her best friend since college, the woman who'd held Clara's hand through every failed pregnancy test, who'd promised to be the baby's godmother someday. What was she doing here? Clara's feet moved on autopilot toward the bedroom door, which stood halfway open. She should have announced herself. Should have called out. But something dark and knowing stopped her voice in her throat. She peered through the gap and felt the world tilt sideways. Minjun and Yuna were tangled together on the bed Clara had shared with him for 2 years. The bed where they'd made love after every IVF procedure, where he'd whispered promises about their future family. His hands were in Yuna's hair, her legs wrapped around his waist, both of them lost in each other with a passion Clara hadn't seen from him in months. Maybe years. The phone slipped from Clara's fingers and hit the hardwood floor with a crack that echoed like a gunshot. Both bodies on the bed froze. Minjun's head whipped toward the door, his eyes going wide with an expression that cycled rapidly from shock to guilt to something Clara couldn't quite read. Fear, maybe. Or annoyance at being caught. Clara. His voice came out hoarse. He scrambled off Yuna, grabbing for his pants like modesty mattered now. This isn't what it looks like. Clara heard herself laugh, a sound completely devoid of humor. Really? Because it looks like you're fucking my best friend in our bed. Yuna sat up, pulling the sheet around her naked body. At least she had the decency to look ashamed, her eyes red and watery. Clara, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen. It just what? Clara's voice rose to a shout. Just accidentally fell onto his dick? Multiple times, apparently, based on those wine glasses in the kitchen. Minjun finished pulling on his pants and took a step toward her, hands raised like she was a wild animal he needed to calm. Let me explain. Please. You've been so focused on getting pregnant, on the treatments. We barely talk anymore. I felt alone and Yuna was there and you're a cheating bastard who couldn't keep it in his pants while I was pumping my body full of hormones to have your baby. Clara's voice went cold, each word dropping like ice. The pregnancy news she'd been so excited to share suddenly felt like a weapon. Should she tell him? Watch his face change when he realized what he'd thrown away. No, he didn't deserve to know. Not now. Maybe not ever. She picked up her cracked phone from the floor, her hands surprisingly steady despite the rage burning through her veins. I want you out of this apartment by tonight. Take your shit and go move in with your soulmate here. Clara, wait. Yuna climbed out of bed, clutching the sheet. You don't understand. We love each other. We have for months. We were going to tell you, but with everything you were going through. Months. The word came out as a whisper. Clara looked between them, really looked, and saw it clearly now. The way they'd been acting at her last IVF appointment, Yuna's hand on Minjun's shoulder, the inside jokes she'd been too stressed to notice. The times Minjun claimed he was working late. How many lies had she swallowed while trying to build a family with a man who was building a different life behind her back? She turned and walked out of the bedroom, out of the apartment, out of the building. Behind her, Minjun called her name, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. If she stayed another second, she might do something violent. Something irreversible. Clara made it to her car before the tears came, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. She gripped the steering wheel and screamed, letting out every ounce of pain and betrayal until her throat went raw. The parking garage echoed her anguish back at her, amplifying it into something monstrous. When she finally stopped crying, the sun had shifted. An hour had passed, maybe more. Her eyes felt swollen, her makeup destroyed. She looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. That morning she'd been happy, hopeful. Now she was alone, pregnant, and completely untethered. The baby. God, the baby. Clara's hand moved to her still flat stomach. Minjun's child was growing inside her, a permanent connection to a man she now hated. What was she supposed to do? Keep it? Raise it alone? The thought terrified and comforted her in equal measure. She'd wanted to be a mother more than anything. Did it matter if the father was a cheating piece of garbage? Yes, it mattered, but not enough to change her mind. Clara started the car and drove aimlessly through Seoul's streets, barely paying attention to where she was going. The city blurred past her windows, all glass and steel, and people living their normal lives, completely unaware that hers had just imploded. She ended up at the Han River, parked along the bank where couples walked hand in hand and families had picnics. She pulled out her phone and called the fertility clinic. The receptionist answered on the third ring, her voice bright and professional. Good afternoon, Seoul Fertility Center. How may I help you? This is Clara Han. I just received confirmation that my pregnancy test was positive. I need to schedule a follow-up appointment. Her voice sounded mechanical, like someone else was speaking through her mouth. Congratulations, Ms. Han. Let me pull up your file. Yes, I see the results here. How about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Tomorrow felt too far away and too soon at the same time. That works. Thank you. She hung up and stared at the river, watching the water flow endlessly toward the sea. A week ago, She'd stood in this exact spot with Minjun, talking about baby names and nursery colors. He'd kissed her forehead and promised everything would work out. Lies. All of it lies. If you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, things are about to get absolutely insane. That night, Clara stayed at a hotel near Gangnam Station, a place expensive enough to feel safe, but impersonal enough that she didn't have to pretend to be okay. She ordered room service, barely touched the food, and fell asleep with her phone clutched in her hand, half expecting Minjun to call with some pathetic apology. He didn't. Neither did Yuna. The next afternoon, Clara walked into the Seoul Fertility Center with dark circles under her eyes and her hair pulled into a messy bun. She'd stopped caring about appearances. The clinic's pristine white walls and soft classical music felt obscene compared to the chaos in her head. The receptionist smiled at her, too cheerful, too oblivious. "Ms. Han, Dr. Park is ready for you. Right this way." Dr. Park's office smelled like antiseptic and lavender, an odd combination that usually soothed Clara's nerves. Today it just made her nauseous. The doctor sat behind her desk, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair pulled into a tight bun. But something about her expression seemed off. Strained. "Clara, thank you for coming in." Dr. Park's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Please sit down. We need to talk about your pregnancy." Clara lowered herself into the chair across from the desk, her stomach nodding. "Is something wrong with the baby?" "The baby is fine. Completely healthy based on all indicators." Dr. Park folded her hands on the desk, her knuckles white. "But we've discovered a significant error in our procedures. A mix-up occurred during your IVF process." The words didn't make sense. Clara blinked. "What kind of mix-up?" "The sperm sample used for your procedure was not your fiancé's." Dr. Park's voice went very quiet. "Due to a labeling error in our facility, you were inseminated with a different donor's specimen." The room tilted. Clara gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles matching Dr. Park's. "You're telling me this isn't Minjun's baby?" "I'm afraid not. I cannot express how deeply sorry I am. This is an unprecedented failure in our protocols, and we take full responsibility." "Whose baby is it?" Clara's voice came out sharp, cutting through the doctor's apology. "Whose sperm did you use?" Dr. Park hesitated, and in that hesitation, Clara saw genuine fear. The biological father's identity is protected by our privacy agreements. However, given the circumstances, we felt obligated to contact him and inform him of the situation. He has certain rights as the biological parent and... Rights? Clara stood up so fast her chair scraped backward. "He has rights to a baby that's growing in my body because of your mistake?" "Please understand, this is complicated legally and ethically. The biological father is a prominent individual in Incheon." The office door slammed open. 3 men in black suits entered, moving with military precision that made Clara's blood run cold. They weren't hospital security. These men carried themselves like predators, their eyes scanning the room for threats, hands positioned near their jackets where she suspected weapons were concealed. "Dr. Park." The one in front spoke, his voice flat and professional. "Mr. Kang sent us to retrieve Ms. Han. You've done your part. We'll take it from here." Dr. Park stood up, her face going pale. "I told Mr. Kang I would handle this delicately. This woman has just received traumatic news. She needs time to process." "Mr. Kang doesn't do delicate." The lead guard stepped forward, his attention shifting to Clara. "Ms. Han, you need to come with us. Now." Clara backed away from them, her heart slamming against her ribs. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Who the hell is Mr. Kang?" The guard's expression remained neutral, but something predatory flickered in his eyes. "Kang Ji-hoon, the biological father of your child. He's requested your immediate presence at his residence in Incheon. This isn't a negotiation. Like hell it isn't. Clara grabbed her purse from the chair, calculating the distance to the door. 3 armed men blocked her path. Stupid. She was being stupid. But fear made people do reckless things. I'm a pregnant woman who just found out my fertility clinic screwed up. I'm not going anywhere until I talk to a lawyer. The guard sighed like this was all very tedious. Ms. Han, I understand you're upset. But you're carrying Mr. King's child, which makes you extremely valuable and extremely vulnerable. There are people who would kill to get their hands on you. We're here to protect you. Protect me from what? From the families who want Mr. Kong dead. The guard pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it toward her. The screen showed a news article from 3 hours ago. This morning, someone leaked information about the pregnancy to rival organizations. You became a target the moment that happened. Clara's eyes scanned the article. The headline read, King Ji-hoon's secret heir, fertility clinic scandal exposes Mafia boss's unexpected paternity. Her stomach dropped. The article included details about the sperm mix-up, her name, even a photo of her leaving the clinic yesterday. How did they get this information so fast? This is insane. Her voice shook. I don't know anything about Mafia families or... The window behind Dr. Park's desk exploded inward. Glass rained across the office as a canister rolled across the floor, spewing thick gray smoke. Clara's eyes immediately started burning. Someone grabbed her arm, yanking her toward the door. She couldn't see through the smoke, couldn't breathe. Shouts echoed through the hallway outside. Then gunfire, sharp cracks that made her ears ring. The guard dragged her through the smoke and into the corridor where chaos had erupted. 2 men in masks were exchanging fire with Kang's guards. Bodies littered the floor. Clara couldn't tell if they were dead or unconscious. Blood smeared the pristine white tiles. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. Move. The guard shoved her forward, using his body as a shield. They ran toward the emergency stairs, bullets punching holes in the walls around them. Clara's designer heels slipped on the blood-slicked floor. She kicked them off and kept running in bare feet. They burst into the stairwell and descended 3 floors at breakneck speed. Clara's lungs burned. Her vision swam. The guard kept one hand locked around her wrist, pulling her forward even when she stumbled. Behind them, footsteps thundered. The attackers were following. Ground floor. The guard kicked open the door and they emerged into the parking garage. A black SUV sat waiting, engine running, back door open. 2 more guards stood beside it, weapons drawn. They opened fire on the stairwell door just as the masked men appeared, forcing them back. Get in. The guard threw Clara into the SUV and climbed in after her. The door slammed shut. The vehicle peeled out of the garage with squealing tires, throwing Clara against the leather seats. She struggled upright, gasping for air, her whole body shaking. What the hell just happened? Who were those people? The Choi family. The guard checked his weapon with practiced efficiency. They control the Southern Territories. If they get their hands on you and the baby, they'll use you as leverage against Mr. King. Or they'll kill you to eliminate his heir. Depends on their mood. Clara's hand instinctively moved to her stomach. The baby. God, the baby could have died back there. She could have died. This morning she'd been worried about Minjun and Yuna. Now she was running from people trying to murder her over a child she hadn't even planned to keep. No, that wasn't true anymore. The moment those bullets started flying, something primal had awakened in her. This was her baby. Hers. No one was going to use it as a weapon or a bargaining chip. No one was going to take it from her. The SUV merged onto the highway heading toward Incheon, weaving through traffic at dangerous speeds. Clara watched Seoul disappear behind them, replaced by industrial complexes and shipping yards. The landscape grew grayer, harder. They drove for 40 minutes before turning down a private road lined with high walls and security cameras. The mansion appeared like something from a dark fantasy. Modern architecture combined with traditional Korean elements, all black stone and floor-to-ceiling windows that probably cost more than Clara's entire apartment building. Armed guards patrolled the grounds. Attack dogs prowled near the perimeter. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. The SUV stopped in front of massive double doors. The guards escorted Clara out of the vehicle and into an entrance hall that could have fit her entire apartment 3 times over. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, abstract art that probably cost millions. Everything screamed wealth and power and danger. Mr. Kang is waiting in his office. A woman in an immaculate suit appeared, her expression professionally blank. "Follow me, please." Clara followed because what choice did she have? Her feet left small bloody prints on the marble floor. She'd cut them running through the clinic. The pain hadn't registered until now. Everything hurt. Her head, her chest, her soul. They walked through corridors lined with more expensive art and antique furniture until they reached a set of ornate wooden doors. The woman knocked twice and pushed them open without waiting for a response. The office was dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Incheon's harbor. Ships dotted the water, their lights beginning to glow as evening approached. Behind a massive mahogany desk sat a man who made Clara's breath catch despite every reason she had to be terrified. Kang Ji-hoon looked like he'd been carved from granite and dressed by devils. Easily 6'3", broad shoulders filling out a black suit that probably cost more than her car. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, dark eyes that tracked her movement with predatory intensity. His black hair was pushed back from his face, revealing features that belonged on a magazine cover. Except magazines didn't usually feature men who looked capable of extreme violence. He stood as she entered, moving with the fluid grace of someone trained in combat. His gaze swept over her, cataloging every detail. The torn stockings, the bloody feet, the mascara she knew was smeared down her cheeks. His expression remained unreadable, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Anger, maybe, or calculation. Miss Han. His voice was deep, smooth, the kind that could seduce or threaten with equal ease. Thank you for joining me. Please sit down. I didn't join you. Clara stayed standing, gripping her purse like a weapon. I was kidnapped. You were extracted from a dangerous situation. Ji-hoon moved around the desk, each step deliberate and controlled. He was a predator approaching prey, and they both knew it. The Choi family would have taken you. They would have hurt you and the child to get to me. My men prevented that. Your men? Your enemies? This is all your world. I don't belong here. Clara's voice rose, hysteria creeping in around the edges. I'm a marketing consultant from Seoul. 3 days ago, my biggest problem was choosing baby names. Now people are shooting at me because I'm carrying some mafia boss's accidental baby. Ji-hoon stopped 3 feet away from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Intoxicating. Completely inappropriate given the circumstances. The situation is regrettable, but it exists. And now we both have to deal with the consequences. I'll get an abortion. The words came out harsh, desperate. Problem solved. His expression went cold, all traces of civility vanishing. You'll do nothing of the sort. You can't tell me what to do with my body. That child is mine. Ji-hoon's voice dropped to something dangerous. Mine by biology, by circumstance, by every metric that matters. I've spent 10 years building my empire, eliminating threats, securing my territory. And I've done it without an heir because I trusted no woman enough to give her that power over me. Now fate has dropped one into my lap, and you think I'll let you destroy it. Clara took a step back, her spine hitting the door. This isn't fate. It's a medical mistake. Call it what you want. The result is the same. Ji-hoon moved closer, his presence overwhelming. He raised one hand and Clara flinched, but he only brushed his fingers against her cheek, wiping away a smudge of blood. The gesture was almost tender. Almost. You're carrying the future of the Kang family. That makes you the most valuable person in Incheon right now. And the most vulnerable. His touch sent electricity through her skin, a reaction she absolutely did not want to have. This man was dangerous. Criminal. Everything she should run from. But her body didn't seem to care about logic. It responded to his proximity, to the raw masculinity he radiated, to the dark promise in his eyes. Clara jerked away from his hand. So what? You're going to keep me prisoner here for 9 months. I'm going to keep you safe. Ji-hoon returned to his desk, putting distance between them like he'd achieved whatever he wanted from that touch. And in return, you're going to give me what I need, which is a contract marriage. He pulled a thick document from his desk drawer and placed it on the mahogany surface. We marry within the week. You live here under my protection. When the child is born, you'll remain as my wife and the child's mother, ensuring the legitimacy of my heir. In exchange, I'll provide you with wealth, security, and anything else you desire. Clara laughed, the sound bordering on unhinged. You're insane. I'm practical. Ji-hoon's expression remained neutral. You have no home to return to. Your fiancé betrayed you. Your friend betrayed you. You're alone, pregnant, and hunted by people who will torture you for sport. I'm offering you a fortress, an army, and a man who will kill anyone who threatens you. The choice seems simple. The choice is between one prison and another. Perhaps. He pushed the contract toward her. But in my prison, you and the child live. Out there. He gestured toward the windows, toward the darkening harbor. You'll be dead within a week. The Choi family has already put a bounty on your head. 5 million won. And they're not the only ones interested. Clara's legs finally gave out. She sank into the chair across from his desk, her hands trembling. This couldn't be happening. This was a nightmare she'd wake up from any second. Except the ache in her feet was real. The smell of gunpowder still clung to her clothes. The weight of Ji-hoon's stare felt like a physical pressure. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. Ji-hoon sat down, suddenly looking like the businessman he probably pretended to be in legitimate circles. My assistant will show you to your room. You'll find clothes, toiletries, anything you need. There are guards posted throughout the mansion. For your protection, not to keep you prisoner. Though I strongly advise against attempting to leave. Or what? You'll shoot me. His expression darkened. I'll let the Choi family have you. See how far you get. Clara stood on shaking legs. You're a monster. Yes. Ji-hoon's gaze never left hers, unflinching and honest. But I'm a monster who keeps his word. Sign the contract, and I will protect you with everything I have. Refuse, and you're on your own. Choose wisely, Ms. Han. The assistant appeared to escort her out. Clara followed numbly, her mind racing through impossible scenarios. Every option led to disaster. Stay and marry a criminal. Leave and die. There had to be a third choice, some escape route she wasn't seeing. The bedroom they gave her was larger than her entire apartment. King-size bed with silk sheets. Attached bathroom with a soaking tub and rain shower. A walk-in closet filled with designer clothes in exactly her size, which was both thoughtful and deeply creepy. Someone had prepared for her arrival. Ji-hoon had planned this. Clara locked the door, collapsed on the bed, and finally let herself cry. Not the angry tears from the parking garage, but deep, soul-wrenching sobs that came from a place of pure terror. Her life had been stolen. First by Minjun's betrayal, then by the clinic's mistake, now by circumstance and violence, and a man who looked at her like she was both treasure and property. She cried until there was nothing left, then dragged herself to the bathroom and stared at her reflection. Bruises were forming on her arms where the guards had grabbed her. Her makeup had transformed into horror movie trails down her cheeks. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked like a victim. No. Clara straightened her spine. She'd been through hell before. the IVF treatments, her mother's death, building a career in a male-dominated industry. She was stronger than this, smarter than this. If Ji-hoon thought he could break her into compliance, he'd severely underestimated who he was dealing with. She stripped off her ruined clothes and stepped into the shower, letting scalding water wash away the blood and smoke and fear. Her mind cleared as the physical filth disappeared. Okay, she needed information. Who was Kang Ji-hoon really? What kind of power did he have? Who were his enemies and could any of them be allies? And most importantly, was there any way to survive this without losing herself completely? Clara wrapped herself in a plush robe and found her purse where she dropped it on the bed. Her phone had 17 missed calls. 10 from Minjun, 7 from Yuna. She blocked both numbers without listening to the voicemails. Whatever they had to say didn't matter anymore. They belonged to a life that had ended the moment she walked into that bedroom and saw them together. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Ms. Han? I've brought dinner." A young woman's voice, polite and deferential. Clara opened the door to find a server holding a tray laden with food. Korean barbecue, rice, kimchi, soup. The smell made her stomach growl despite everything. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. "Thank you." Clara took the tray and set it on the small table near the window. The server bowed and left, closing the door softly behind her. Clara ate mechanically, fueling her body because the baby needed it even if she had no appetite. Through the window, she could see the harbor lights twinkling in the darkness. Ships moved in and out, carrying cargo to destinations unknown. Somewhere out there, people were living normal lives, going to work, coming home to families, worrying about ordinary problems. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the cool surface against her palm. On the other side was freedom. And death, apparently. Ji-hoon had been clear about that. Stay and submit, or leave and die. Those were her options. Unless she could create a third option. Clara's mind started working through possibilities. If she signed the contract, she'd have access to Ji-hoon's resources. His information networks. His money. Maybe his trust, eventually. And with those tools, maybe she could find a way to protect herself and the baby without remaining his prisoner forever. It was a long game. A dangerous game. But it was the only game she could see winning. The door opened without warning. Clara spun around to find Ji-hoon standing in the doorway, still in his suit but with his tie loosened and his jacket discarded. He looked almost human like this. Almost approachable. The illusion shattered when she met his eyes and saw the same predatory calculation. "I didn't give you permission to enter." Clara kept her voice steady despite the fear spike in her chest. "This is my house. I don't need permission." Ji-hoon closed the door behind him and leaned against it, studying her with unsettling intensity. "I came to see if you were settling in." How thoughtful. The kidnapper checking on his victim's comfort. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You have spirit. Good. You'll need it to survive in my world." "I don't want to survive in your world. I want my old life back." "Your old life included a cheating fiancé and a backstabbing friend. I'm offering you an upgrade." Ji-hoon pushed off the door and moved deeper into the room, his presence filling the space. "Besides, you're lying to yourself. Part of you is intrigued by all this. Intrigued by violence and crime? You're delusional." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Intrigued by power. By danger. By me." His hand came up to trace her jawline, the touch featherlight but electric. "I see it in the way you look at me. Fear, yes, but also curiosity. Attraction, even though you hate yourself for it." Clara's breath caught. He wasn't wrong, damn him. Something about Ji-hoon pulled at her despite every logical reason to be repulsed. Maybe it was the alpha male energy he radiated. Maybe it was the forbidden nature of it all. Or maybe she'd just been through so much trauma in the past 48 hours that her brain had short-circuited and started finding danger attractive. You don't know anything about me. Her voice came out breathier than intended. I know you're stronger than you think. I know you're terrified, but still standing here arguing with me instead of cowering. I know you'll do whatever it takes to protect that baby. His thumb brushed across her lower lip. And I know you feel this thing between us, same as I do. The electricity crackling in the space between their bodies was undeniable, a magnetic pull that defied everything Clara knew she should feel. She stepped back, breaking the contact, her heart hammering against her ribs. There's nothing between us except a biological accident and your need for an heir. Jihoon's eyes darkened, but he didn't pursue her. Instead, he moved to the window, looking out at the harbor with his hands clasped behind his back. You think this is just about an heir? If I only needed a child, I could have one tomorrow with any woman in Incheon. They'd line up for the privilege. Then why me? Why force this? He turned back to face her, and for the first time, she saw something vulnerable flicker across his features. Because you're already carrying my blood. My DNA. A child conceived without contracts or negotiations or ulterior motives. Do you understand how rare that is in my world? How pure. His voice dropped. Everyone wants something from me. Power, money, protection, status. But this baby? It didn't ask for anything. It just exists. And that makes it the only honest thing in my entire life. Clara's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. When he put it that way, she almost understood. Almost. That doesn't give you the right to control my life. No, but it gives me the responsibility to protect yours. Jihoon moved toward the door, then paused. Think about what I said. You have until morning. But Clara. He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. Don't mistake my civility for weakness. I will do whatever necessary to secure my child's future. Whatever. Necessary. He left, the door clicking shut behind him with a finality that made Clara's skin prickle. She was alone again, trapped in a gilded cage with a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Sign the contract and become the wife of Incheon's most dangerous man, or refuse and take her chances with assassins and rival mafia families. Some choice. Clara barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw masked men with guns, heard the crack of bullets punching through walls, felt Jihoon's fingers against her skin. The pregnancy exhaustion finally dragged her under around 4 in the morning, and she woke 3 hours later to sunlight streaming through the massive windows. Someone had left fresh clothes folded on the chair near the bed. Designer labels, perfectly sized. Clara dressed in black slacks and a silk blouse that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to, then ventured out of the bedroom. A guard stood in the hallway, young and professional, his weapon visible under his jacket. Good morning, Ms. Han. Mr. Kang requests your presence in the dining room for breakfast. Requests. As if she had a choice. Clara followed the guard through the maze-like mansion until they reached a formal dining room with a table that could seat 20. Jihoon sat at the head, reading something on his tablet while nursing a cup of coffee. He looked up when she entered, his gaze sweeping over her appreciatively. You slept well, I hope. He gestured to the chair beside him. Not at the opposite end of the table where she could maintain distance, but right next to him. A power play. Clara sat, keeping her spine straight and her expression neutral, as well as anyone can when being held hostage. Guest. The word is guest. A server appeared with coffee and a plate of Western-style breakfast. Eggs, bacon, toast. Completely normal except for the armed guards stationed at every door. Have you made your decision? Do I really have a choice? Clara picked up her fork, more to have something to do with her hands than from hunger. You've made it clear what happens if I refuse. You always have a choice. The consequences might be unpleasant, but the choice exists. Jihoon set down his tablet and turned his full attention to her. I won't force you to sign, Clara. But I also won't lie about the reality you're facing. The moment that information leaked, you became a target. The only question is whether you want to be a protected target or an exposed one. Clara took a bite of eggs, buying time to think. The food was excellent, prepared by someone who actually knew how to cook. Not that it mattered. She could barely taste it through her anxiety. If I sign, what exactly does this contract entail? Besides the obvious marriage and living here. Jihoon pulled a copy of the document from seemingly nowhere and placed it in front of her. Read it yourself. My lawyer wrote it to be comprehensive but fair. Fair. Right. Clara scanned the dense legal language, her marketing background helping her parse the corporate speak. The contract was insane. She would marry Jihoon within 1 week. Live in his household as his legal wife. Bear and raise the child as the legitimate heir to the Kang family empire. In exchange, she would receive a monthly allowance of 50 million won, full access to the estate and its resources, personal security detail, and complete medical care for herself and the baby. The terms extended for a minimum of 18 years, at which point either party could petition for dissolution of the marriage if mutually agreed. Until then, she was bound to him legally, socially, and practically. There were clauses about fidelity, public appearances, media interactions, even what would happen if she tried to flee with the child. This is a prison sentence. Clara pushed the contract away. You're asking me to give up 2 decades of my life. I'm asking you to be a mother and a wife. Many women manage both without calling it imprisonment. Jihoon's voice carried an edge. And in return, you get wealth most people only dream of, protection from forces that would gleefully torture you, and a child who will want for nothing. Except parents who actually love each other. Something flickered in Jihoon's eyes. Pain, maybe. Or recognition. Love is a luxury in my world. Survival is the priority. Teach the child that early, and they'll thank you later. Clara studied him, really looked at the man behind the Mafia boss persona. He was probably early 30s, young for someone with this much power, which meant he'd clawed his way up through violence and cunning. She wondered what his childhood had been like, whether he'd ever known love or if it had been beaten out of him by this brutal world he inhabited. Not that it mattered. His past didn't excuse his present. What about my career? My friends? My life and soul. Even as Clara asked, she knew the answers. All of it was gone. Minjun and Yuna had destroyed her personal life. The fertility clinic scandal would destroy her professional reputation. And the bounty on her head destroyed any chance of returning to normal. Your life and soul ended the moment you conceived my child. Jihoon's bluntness was almost refreshing after years of corporate doublespeak. You can rebuild here. Start a new career. Make new friends, though I'll vet them personally. Or you can spend your days shopping and being pampered. The choice is yours within the parameters of safety. So I'm a bird in a very expensive cage. You're a queen in a fortress. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something intimate and dangerous. And if you're smart, you'll learn to wield that power instead of resenting it. Before Clara could respond, one of the guards entered quickly, his expression urgent. Sir, we have a situation. The Choi family is moving assets toward our territory. Intelligence suggests they're planning something major. Jihoon's entire demeanor shifted. The almost civil breakfast companion vanished, replaced by the cold-blooded leader who'd built an empire on violence. How many men? At least 30. Maybe more. They're using civilian vehicles to avoid detection. Triple the perimeter guards. Move the armory to code red. And get Kim on the phone. I want eyes on every approach to this estate. Jihoon stood, already moving toward the door, then stopped and turned back to Clara. Stay in the mansion. Don't go near any windows. If something happens, the guards know to get you to the safe room in the basement. Do you understand? Clara nodded, her mouth too dry to speak. The casual violence of his world was crashing back into focus. This morning's almost normal breakfast had been an illusion. The reality was armed guards and rival families and safe rooms built to withstand attacks. Ji-hoon left without another word, barking orders in Korean too rapid for Clara to follow. She sat alone at the massive table, staring at the contract in front of her. The eggs congealed on her plate. Outside the windows, she could see guards moving into position, weapons ready. This was her life now. Whether she signed the contract or not, this violent chaos had become her reality. The server reappeared, her expression professionally calm despite the obvious tension. Ms. Han, perhaps you'd be more comfortable in your room? Or the library. It has no external windows and is considered one of the safest rooms in the mansion. Clara stood, leaving her breakfast untouched. The library sounds good. The library was exactly what Clara needed. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, comfortable leather chairs, soft lighting that felt warm instead of clinical. And most importantly, no windows to the outside world. Just books and silence and the illusion of safety. She curled up in one of the chairs and tried to read, but the words blurred together. Her mind kept circling back to Ji-hoon's face when he'd talked about the baby being the only honest thing in his life. There had been real emotion there, quickly hidden but unmistakable. This wasn't just about power or heirs or mafia politics. He genuinely wanted this child, which made everything more complicated. Hours passed. Clara dozed fitfully, her pregnancy exhaustion overwhelming the anxiety. She woke to find someone had left a lunch tray on the table beside her chair. Soup, rice, and kimchi. Still warm. She ate mechanically, fueling her body for the baby's sake. The door opened and Ji-hoon entered, looking tired but unhurt. His jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with old scars. He'd been in a fight recently. Probably many fights. The situation is contained. He dropped into the chair across from her, suddenly looking every year of his age and then some. The Choi family was testing our defenses. They won't try a direct assault, but they're getting desperate. Desperate enough to attack a pregnant woman? Desperate enough to do whatever it takes to weaken me. Ji-hoon ran a hand through his hair, disrupting the perfect styling. Which is why I need your answer, Clara. Today. Now. I can't protect you properly while you're in this limbo state. Either you're mine, officially and legally, or you're a liability I can't afford. The bluntness should have offended her. Instead, Clara appreciated it. No games, no manipulation. Just cold, hard truth. And if I'm a liability, what then? Then I'll give you enough money to disappear somewhere far from Korea. New identity, new life. And I'll send men to ensure the baby's safe delivery, after which I'll take custody. His eyes met hers, unflinching. I don't want that outcome, but I'll accept it if necessary. Clara's hand moved to her stomach protectively. You take my baby? It's my baby too. And in my world, that child is royalty. I won't let it grow up vulnerable and unprotected because you're too stubborn to accept reality. Ji-hoon leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his expression intense. Sign the contract, Clara. Be my wife. Give our child the best possible life. And maybe, in time, you'll find this arrangement isn't as terrible as you think. Or maybe I'll spend 20 years resenting you. Maybe, but at least you'll spend them alive. He pulled out a pen and set it on the table between them. Last chance. Choose. Clara stared at the pen like it was a snake. Picking it up meant surrendering her freedom, her autonomy, her entire future to a man she'd known for less than 24 hours. A criminal. A killer. Someone who saw her primarily as a vessel for his heir. But it also meant safety for her baby. Wealth. Protection. And if she was being honest with herself, a dark part of her was intrigued by Ji-hoon. By his power, his intensity, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in his violent world. She was so tired of being afraid. So tired of feeling helpless. Maybe it was time to stop being a victim and start being a player in this twisted game. Clara picked up the pen. Ji-hoon's expression didn't change, but something flashed in his eyes. Triumph? Relief? She couldn't tell. She flipped to the final page of the contract where her signature line waited, bold and empty. Her hand trembled as she pressed the pen to paper. Wait. Ji-hoon's hand covered hers, stopping the motion. Before you sign, I want you to understand something. This contract binds us legally, but I'm not a man who needs a piece of paper to keep his promises. I will protect you. I will provide for you and our child. And I will never, ever let anyone hurt you. You have my word on that. The word of a mafia boss? Clara tried to inject sarcasm into her voice, but it came out shaky. The word of the father of your child. His hand tightened over hers, warm and strong. Sign it, Clara. Choose us. She signed. 3 quick strokes of the pen, and her old life officially ended. Clara Hahn, marketing consultant, disappeared. In her place sat the future wife of Kang Ji-hoon, about to become one of the most protected and most targeted women in Korea. Ji-hoon took the contract, added his own signature with practiced efficiency, and pulled out his phone. It's done. Arrange the wedding for 3 days from now. Private ceremony, minimal guests, maximum security. He hung up and looked at Clara. We'll marry on Saturday. That gives us time to handle the legal paperwork and security preparations. 3 days. Clara's voice came out as a squeak. That's insane. The longer we wait, the more vulnerable you are. And frankly, I want this settled before the other families get any clever ideas. Ji-hoon stood and offered his hand. Come, I'll show you the rest of the estate. You should know your new home. Clara let him pull her to her feet, his grip firm but not painful. They walked through the mansion together, Ji-hoon pointing out various rooms and their purposes. The gym where he trained daily. The office wing where he ran his legitimate business operations. The armory, which made Clara's blood run cold with its rows of weapons. The safe room in the basement, reinforced steel with independent air supply and enough provisions to last a month. If anyone breaches the main house, the guards will bring you here. Ji-hoon opened the massive door to show her the interior. Hospital equipment, communications gear, weapons storage. Everything needed to survive a siege. The code is your birthday. 6 digits. Only you and my head of security know it. How do you know my birthday? Clara hadn't told him. I know everything about you. Ji-hoon's smile was predatory. Your education, employment history, medical records, financial status. Your favorite restaurant, the name of your childhood dog, the fact that you're allergic to shellfish. I don't do anything halfway, Clara. When I decided you were going to be my wife, I learned everything there was to learn. The invasion of privacy should have enraged her. Instead, Clara felt a strange flutter in her chest. He'd researched her, prepared for her, cared enough to know her favorite restaurant even though he probably never planned to take her there. Stop it, she told herself. He's a criminal who's forcing you into marriage. Don't romanticize this. But her traitorous body didn't listen. When Ji-hoon's hand brushed her lower back as they walked, guiding her through doorways, she felt heat spread from the point of contact. When he stood close while explaining security protocols, she noticed the way his cologne mixed with his natural scent, something masculine and oddly appealing. This was Stockholm Syndrome. Had to be. Or pregnancy hormones. Or maybe just her brain breaking under the stress of the past 2 days. They ended the tour in what Ji-hoon called the family wing, a series of connected rooms designed for a husband, wife, and children. The master bedroom was massive, dominated by a bed that could fit 4 people. His clothes filled half the walk-in closet. The other half was empty, waiting for her. You'll sleep here. Ji-hoon moved to the windows, which overlooked the harbor. With me. Clara's stomach flipped. The contract didn't say anything about sharing a bed. The contract says we're married. Married couples share beds. He turned to face her, his expression neutral, but his eyes burning with something intense. Unless you'd prefer separate rooms? I can arrange that if you're uncomfortable. Yes. She should say yes. Demand her own space, her own bed, some boundary between them. But the word that came out was no. This is fine. Ji-hoon's smile was slow and dangerous. Good. Because I sleep better knowing you're close. Where I can protect you. Is that what you're calling it? Clara tried to inject some defiance into her voice. Protection? What else would I call it? He moved closer, each step deliberate. You're carrying my child. You're about to become my wife. Every instinct I have says to keep you close, keep you safe, keep you, mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have repulsed her. Clara had always been independent, always fought against being owned or controlled. But something about the way Ji-hoon said it, with that dark intensity and absolute certainty, made heat pool low in her belly. I don't belong to you. She forced the words out. Not yet. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. But you will. The contract makes you my wife. Time will make you mine in every other way that matters. You're very confident. I'm very patient. Ji-hoon's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with unexpected gentleness. And I'm very good at getting what I want. What I want, Clara, is you. Willing. Eager. Completely surrendered to this thing between us. There's nothing between us except circumstance and contracts. Liar. He leaned in until his lips nearly touched her ear, his breath warm against her skin. You feel it. This pull. This heat. You felt it yesterday when I touched you. You're feeling it now. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending otherwise. Clara's breath came short and fast. He was right, damn him. Every cell in her body was hyper-aware of his proximity. The masculine scent of him. The heat of his hand against her face. The way his voice dropped to that intimate rumble that made her insides clench. Before she could respond, his phone rang. Ji-hoon cursed in Korean and stepped back, the moment broken. He answered with a curt greeting, listened for a moment, then his expression went deadly. When? How many casualties? I'll be right there. He hung up and looked at Clara, his face transformed into the cold mask of the Mafia boss. I have to go. Business that can't wait. The guards will take you to dinner when you're ready. Don't leave the mansion. He paused at the door. And Clara? Get used to sleeping in that bed. You'll be in it tonight. With me. He left before she could protest, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Clara stood alone in the massive bedroom that was about to become hers, her heart racing and her mind spinning. In 3 days, she would marry a man who terrified and attracted her in equal measure. A man who killed people for a living but looked at her like she was precious. A man who offered protection with one hand while controlling her life with the other. And tonight, she would share his bed. Clara moved to the windows and looked out at Incheon's harbor, watching ships navigate the dark water. Somewhere out there, people were trying to kill her. In here, she was trapped with a beautiful monster who wanted to own her body and soul. She pressed her hand against the cool glass and whispered to the baby growing inside her. I'm so sorry. I wanted to give you a normal life. A happy family. Instead, you're getting this insanity. Her voice broke. But I promise I'll protect you. No matter what it costs me. The hours until bedtime stretched interminably. Clara ate dinner alone in the formal dining room, picked at her food, and tried not to think about Ji-hoon's promise. Or threat. Or whatever that had been about sleeping together. Around 10 p.m., a servant appeared to ask if she needed anything before retiring. No, thank you. I'm fine. Clara wasn't fine. She was terrified. But admitting that wouldn't help. She returned to the master bedroom and stood in the doorway, staring at that massive bed. Her prison and her sanctuary. Jihoon's scent lingered in the room, that intoxicating mixture of cologne and danger. Clara changed into the silk nightgown someone had left on the bed, probably another invasion of privacy where they'd somehow known her size. The nightgown was beautiful, modest enough to not be scandalous, but fitted enough to highlight her curves. She caught her reflection in the full-length mirror and barely recognized herself. When had she become this woman? This potential mob wife? If you're still watching, drop a comment below and let me know what you think Clara should do. Should she try to escape? Or embrace this dangerous new life? And hit that subscribe button because things are about to get even more intense. Midnight came and went. Clara lay in the bed, on one side, leaving the other half empty for Jihoon. Sleep eluded her despite her exhaustion. Every sound made her jump. Every creak of the old mansion settling made her imagine attackers breaching the walls. The door finally opened around 1 in the morning. Jihoon entered silently, moving through the darkness like he owned it. Which he did, Clara supposed. He owned everything in this mansion, including her now. She closed her eyes and pretended to sleep, tracking his movements by sound. The rustle of clothes being removed. Water running in the bathroom. The shift of the mattress as he climbed into bed beside her. For several minutes, neither of them moved. Clara kept her breathing steady and even, maintaining the illusion of sleep. But her entire body was tense, hyper-aware of the man lying inches away. His warmth radiated across the space between them. She could smell the soap from his shower, clean and masculine. I know you're awake. Jihoon's voice cut through the darkness, soft but certain. Your breathing is too controlled. People who are actually asleep don't breathe that evenly. Clara gave up the pretense and opened her eyes. The room was dark except for ambient light from the harbor filtering through the curtains. She could barely make out Jihoon's silhouette, but she felt his attention focused entirely on her. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I. The mattress shifted as he turned toward her. Strange, having someone else in my bed. I haven't shared this space with anyone in years. Why not? The question came out before Clara could stop it. You could have any woman you wanted. Any woman who wanted my money or my power. None who wanted me. Jihoon's hand found hers in the darkness, his fingers threading through hers. Do you understand the difference? Everyone in my world has an agenda. They smile and flirt and offer themselves, but it's all transaction. Always transaction. Clara's heart did something complicated in her chest. And you think I'm different? I signed your contract. That's the definition of transaction. You signed under duress. Which means when you eventually come to me willingly, I'll know it's real. His thumb stroked across her knuckles, the touch gentle despite his calloused hands. I can wait. I'm very patient when something matters to me. What makes you think I'll ever come to you willingly? Jihoon's laugh was low and dark. Because you already want to. You're just too stubborn to admit it. But I see the way you look at me. The way your breath catches when I get close. The way your pupils dilate when I touch you. His hand released hers and moved to her face, cupping her cheek. Your body knows what your mind refuses to accept. We're inevitable, Clara. She should pull away. Should tell him he was delusional and arrogant and wrong. But his hand against her face felt good. Safe, despite everything. And he wasn't wrong about the attraction. Her body did respond to him in ways that terrified her. You're very sure of yourself. I have to be. In my world, uncertainty gets you killed. Jihoon's thumb traced her lower lip, the gesture intimate and possessive. But with you, I'm willing to be patient. To let you come to terms with this in your own time. I won't force you into my bed, Clara. When we finally come together, you'll be begging for it. The arrogance should have infuriated her. Instead, heat flooded her body, pulling between her legs in a way that made her grateful for the darkness hiding her reaction. You think very highly of your appeal. I think realistically about chemistry. And ours is undeniable. His hand slid from her face down her neck, his fingers trailing along her collarbone with maddening slowness. But I'm a man of my word. I won't push tonight, or tomorrow, or even after we're married. Not until you ask me to. Clara's breathing had gone ragged. His touch was setting her nerves on fire, every brush of his fingers sending electricity through her system. This was insane. She'd known him for barely 36 hours. He was a criminal who'd essentially kidnapped her. But her traitorous body didn't care about logic or morality. It only cared about the heat building between them. "Stop touching me." The words came out breathless, unconvincing. "Why?" Jihoon's hand stilled, but didn't move away. "Because you hate it? Or because you like it too much? Because this is wrong. All of this is wrong. Maybe, but it's also happening." He withdrew his hand and settled back onto his side of the bed, putting space between them. "Sleep, Clara. You're safe here. I'll keep watch. You're going to stay awake all night?" "I often do. Insomnia is an occupational hazard." His voice carried a weariness that made him sound almost human. "But knowing you're here, safe and protected, helps. So sleep. Let me have that much." Clara didn't think she could possibly sleep with Jihoon beside her, his presence overwhelming even in the darkness. But exhaustion finally claimed her, pulling her under into fitful dreams of masked attackers and dark eyes and hands that promised both danger and safety. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Jihoon's side of the bed empty and cold. He'd already left for whatever business required his attention. Clara showered and dressed in more of the expensive clothes that had mysteriously appeared in the closet. Designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than her old car. The next 3 days passed in a blur of wedding preparations that felt surreal. A designer arrived with dresses for Clara to choose from, all white or ivory, all beautiful, all completely inappropriate for a forced marriage to a crime lord. She chose the simplest one, an elegant sheath that didn't scream bride, but didn't look like she was going to a funeral either. Jihoon was largely absent during the preparations, dealing with whatever Mafia business kept him occupied. But he appeared every evening for dinner, sitting across from Clara and making conversation like they were a normal couple planning a normal wedding. He asked about her day, her comfort level, whether she needed anything. He never touched her beyond the occasional brush of his hand against hers, never pushed for more than she was willing to give. The restraint was somehow more seductive than aggression would have been. Clara found herself looking forward to those dinners, to the verbal sparring and the way Jihoon looked at her like she was the most interesting person in his world. She told herself it was just manipulation, a technique to make her compliant. But part of her wondered if maybe, just maybe, he genuinely enjoyed her company. The night before the wedding, Clara couldn't sleep again. She lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Tomorrow she would legally bind herself to a man who terrified and fascinated her. Tomorrow she would become Mrs. Kang Jihoon, wife of Incheon's most dangerous crime boss. The door opened and Jihoon entered, earlier than usual. He'd been working late every night, not coming to bed until she was already asleep or pretending to be. But tonight he looked exhausted, his tie loosened and his jacket discarded somewhere. "Can't sleep." He sat on the edge of the bed, his back to her. "Nervous about tomorrow?" Clara sat up, hugging her knees to her chest. "This is crazy. All of this is crazy." "I know." Jihoon turned to look at her, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. "I know this isn't what you wanted, that I'm not who you would have chosen. But I promise you, Clara, I will spend the rest of my life making this bearable. Maybe even good if you let me. Why do you care? You have what you want. The contract, the heir, the legitimacy. Why does it matter if I'm happy?" Jihoon reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture tender. "Because seeing you miserable makes me feel like a monster. And I've done monstrous things, I won't lie about that. But with you, I want to be better. You make me want to be the man you deserve instead of the man I am. Clara's throat tightened. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and stubborn and loyal. I know you put that baby's needs above your own fear. I know you have a sharp tongue and a sharper mind. His hand moved to cup her face. And I know that somehow, against all logic, you're starting to care about me too, even though you fight it. He wasn't wrong. Clara had spent the past 3 days trying to hate Ji-hoon, trying to maintain the righteous anger that had fueled her initially. But he made it difficult. The way he listened when she talked. The way he'd quietly arranged for her favorite foods to appear at meals. The way he looked at her like she was precious instead of just a convenient vessel for his child. I don't know what I feel. The admission cost her, but it was honest. Everything is happening too fast. My emotions are all over the place. Then don't think about emotions. Think about this. Ji-hoon leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was nothing like Clara expected. Not aggressive or demanding, but gentle, questioning. His lips moved against hers with a tenderness that made her chest ache. She should push him away, should maintain boundaries. But instead, her hands came up to grip his shoulders and she kissed him back. Ji-hoon made a sound low in his throat, something between a groan and a sigh, and deepened the kiss. His hand slid into her hair, angling her head for better access. His tongue traced the seam of her lips and she opened for him, letting him in, tasting him properly for the first time. He tasted like whiskey and danger and dark promises. The kiss went from gentle to desperate in seconds, years of loneliness and want pouring out from both of them. Clara's fingers dug into his shoulders, pulling him closer. Ji-hoon's other hand found her waist, burning through the silk of her nightgown. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hoon rested his forehead against hers. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll go sleep in one of the guest rooms. But don't lie to me, Clara. Don't lie to yourself. Clara's mind screamed at her to send him away, to maintain the last shreds of her resistance. But her body had other ideas. 3 days of building tension, of loaded glances and careful touches, of sleeping beside him every night without touching. It had created a hunger she couldn't deny anymore. Don't stop. The words came out as a whisper. Please don't stop. Ji-hoon's eyes darkened with desire and something that looked almost like relief. Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. I'm already yours. The contract made sure of that. Clara pulled him down for another kiss, pouring her frustration and fear and unwanted desire into it. So take what's yours. He did. Ji-hoon kissed her like a man starving, his control finally breaking. His hands moved over her body with possessive certainty, learning every curve through the thin silk. Clara arched into his touch, her own hands exploring the hard planes of his chest and shoulders. He was all muscle and power and barely leashed violence, and she wanted all of it. They moved together in the darkness, clothes discarded, boundaries dissolved. Ji-hoon was demanding but attentive, his hands and mouth worshipping her body while driving her toward the edge of sanity. Clara gave as good as she got, her nails raking down his back, her teeth finding his shoulder. When he finally entered her, they both froze, locked together in a moment of perfect stillness. His eyes met hers in the dim light, searching for something. Permission. Acceptance. Surrender. Clara gave him all three. They moved together with an intensity that bordered on violence, all the tension of the past days exploding into something primal and necessary. Ji-hoon's voice in her ear, speaking Korean endearments she didn't understand but felt in her bones. Clara's voice crying out his name as pleasure crashed through her in waves that left her shaking. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, hearts gradually slowing to normal rhythms. Jihoon's arm was locked around Clara's waist, holding her against his chest like he feared she might disappear. She should feel regret, shame, but instead, she felt satiated and strangely peaceful. No going back now. Jihoon's voice rumbled against her ear. You're mine, Clara. Completely. She should argue. Should tell him that sex didn't mean ownership. But lying there in his arms, their baby growing between them, Clara realized he was right. She'd surrendered something tonight that she could never reclaim. Some part of herself that now belonged to him, for better or worse. I know. She pressed closer to his warmth. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. His lips brushed her temple. But know this. I will never let anyone hurt you. Not the Choi family, not any rival organization, not anyone. You're under my protection now. That's a sacred promise in my world. And if someone tries, then they die. His voice held absolute certainty. Slowly, painfully. I'll make an example that ensures no one ever threatens you again. The casual violence should have horrified her. Instead, Clara felt a dark thrill at the possessiveness in his voice. What did that say about her? That she was aroused by a man promising murder on her behalf? Maybe she'd been broken by the past few days. Or maybe she'd finally found her place in this brutal world. They fell asleep intertwined, and for the first time since the fertility clinic revelation, Clara slept deeply and dreamlessly. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Bright sunshine, mild temperature, the harbor sparkling in the distance. A cruel irony for what should have been the worst day of Clara's life, but somehow didn't feel that way anymore. The ceremony was held in the mansion's private garden, transformed overnight into something elegant and beautiful. White roses everywhere, a simple arch decorated with greenery, chairs set up for the handful of guests Jihoon had deemed trustworthy enough to attend. His inner circle, basically. Men with hard eyes and expensive suits who looked at Clara with varying degrees of assessment and approval. Clara walked down the makeshift aisle alone, no father to give her away. Her father had died when she was young, and she'd never been close to her extended family. It should have felt lonely. But when she reached the arch and saw Jihoon waiting in a perfectly tailored black suit, looking at her like she was the only person in the world, loneliness evaporated. The officiant kept it brief. Standard vows, no personalization, just the legal requirements to bind them together. Clara said, I do, with a steady voice. Jihoon's I do sounded like a vow and a threat and a promise all at once. He slid a ring onto her finger, platinum with a massive diamond that probably cost more than most people's houses. You may kiss the bride. Jihoon pulled Clara against him and kissed her thoroughly, possessively, making it clear to everyone watching that this was no arrangement of convenience. This was ownership. Claiming. When he finally released her, Clara's lips were swollen and her face flushed, and the assembled Mafia elite looked vaguely amused. The reception was held in the mansion's ballroom, intimate by normal wedding standards, but lavish beyond anything Clara had experienced. Champagne flowed freely. A string quartet played classical music. The food was exquisite, prepared by a chef who'd apparently won multiple awards. Clara moved through it all in a daze, Jihoon's hand never leaving the small of her back, his presence a constant reminder that she was his now. Legally. Physically. Completely. Men approached to offer congratulations that felt more like assessments. Women watched with envy and calculation in their eyes. They're wondering if you're a weakness or an asset. Jihoon's voice was low in her ear as they swayed together on the dance floor. The smart ones recognize you're both. And which are you hoping for? Clara looked up at him, this dangerous man who is now her husband. I'm hoping you become my greatest strength. His hand tightened on her waist. Someone I can trust absolutely in a world where trust is rarer than diamonds. Someone who stands beside me instead of behind me. That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it. You're stronger than you think. Ji-hoon spun her gracefully, showing off skills that surprised her. And you're already proving it. Most women would have crumbled under what you've experienced this week. You've adapted, survived, started to thrive even. Clara wanted to argue, but he wasn't entirely wrong. A week ago, she'd been a victim, passive, and helpless. Now she was a mafia wife learning to navigate a brutal world. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was the life she had. And maybe, just maybe, she could make it work. The reception wound down as evening approached. Guests departed with final congratulations and thinly veiled warnings. Soon it was just Clara and Ji-hoon, standing in the ballroom surrounded by the debris of their wedding. Tired, Ji-hoon's thumb stroked her cheek. Exhausted, overwhelmed, terrified. Take your pick. Clara leaned into his touch, seeking comfort from the source of her fear. This is my life now. I'm still processing. You have time. We have time. He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her in an embrace that felt protective rather than possessive. I meant what I said earlier. I want you as a partner, not a prisoner. Tell me what you need to make this bearable. Better than bearable. Clara considered the question seriously. What did she need? Freedom within the boundaries. A purpose beyond being your wife and baby incubator. Maybe access to the business side of things. I'm good with marketing and strategy. I could be useful. Ji-hoon pulled back to look at her, surprise flickering across his features. You want to be involved in the family business? I want to be involved in something. I can't just sit around being decorative for the next 20 years. Let me help. Use my skills. Clara's voice strengthened as the idea took shape. You said you wanted a partner. Partners contribute. A slow smile spread across Ji-hoon's face, transforming him from dangerous to devastating. Done. Starting Monday, you'll meet with my business managers. See where you fit. But Clara, his voice dropped to that intimate rumble. This makes you even more of a target. You understand that? I understand that I'm already a target just by existing. Might as well make myself useful while I'm at it. Clara surprised herself with her own boldness. Besides, if I'm going to survive in your world, I need to understand it. Can't navigate what I don't know. Smart woman. I knew there was a reason I wanted you. Ji-hoon kissed her forehead, a gesture that felt tender and possessive in equal measure. Come, let's go upstairs. I want my wife to myself. They climbed the stairs to the master bedroom together, Clara's hand in Ji-hoon's, the weight of the wedding ring foreign on her finger. Inside their room, someone had scattered rose petals across the bed and lit candles. Romantic touches for a romance that didn't exist, but might be forming despite everything. Ji-hoon closed the door and leaned against it, just watching Clara with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Last night was about need. Desperation. Tonight, I want to take my time. Learn every inch of my wife properly. Clara's breath caught. After last night's intensity, she thought she'd be satisfied for days. But her body responded immediately to the dark promise in his voice, heat pooling low in her belly. You're very confident about getting a repeat performance. You're already flushed. Your pupils are dilated. You're breathing faster. Ji-hoon pushed off the door and stalked toward her. Your body doesn't lie, even when your mouth does. You want this as much as I do. He was right, damn him. Clara's pride wanted to deny it, but her body was already leaning toward him, seeking his touch. You're insufferable. I'm honest. He stopped in front of her and reached for the zipper of her wedding dress. May I? The request for permission after everything was almost sweet. Clara nodded, turning to give him access. The zipper descended slowly, his knuckles brushing her spine, leaving trails of fire. The dress pulled at her feet, leaving her in just white lace lingerie. Ji-hoon's breath hissed out. Beautiful. So damn beautiful. His hands spanned her waist, turning her to face him. I don't deserve you. But I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway. Before Clara could respond, he lifted her effortlessly and carried her to the bed, laying her down on the rose petals with surprising gentleness. Then he proceeded to worship every inch of her skin, his hands and mouth mapping her body like territory to be conquered and claimed. Clara gave herself over to the sensation, to the dark pleasure of being desired this intensely. Ji-hoon made love to her like a man possessed, alternating between gentle and rough, tender and demanding, until she couldn't remember why she'd ever resisted this. Until all that existed was sensation and need and the feeling of being completely, utterly claimed. Afterward, they lay tangled together again, the candles burning low, rose petals crushed beneath them. Ji-hoon's hand rested on Clara's still flat stomach, his touch reverent. My child. My wife. My family. His voice held wonder, like he couldn't quite believe it was real. I've built an empire, eliminated countless threats, accumulated more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But this feels like the first thing I've actually won. Clara's hand covered his on her stomach. Don't get sentimental on me. It's unsettling. He laughed, the sound genuine and warm. Only with you. Only ever with you. His lips found her temple. Sleep, my wife. Tomorrow we start building our life together. Clara drifted off in his arms, more content than she had any right to be. Outside the windows, Incheon's harbor glittered with ship lights and possibility. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted and threats gathered. But inside this fortress, wrapped in her dangerous husband's arms, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Protected. Home. The future was uncertain and probably violent. Her marriage was built on circumstance and contract rather than love. But as Clara's hand rested on the baby growing inside her and Ji-hoon's steady heartbeat lulled her to sleep, she realized something important. She was done being a victim. Done being passive. This was her life now, this brutal, beautiful, dangerous world, and she was going to master it. Stand beside her Mafia husband as an equal. Raise their child to be strong in a world that would constantly test them. And maybe, just maybe, find something real in this arrangement that had started as anything but. The week had begun with betrayal and ended with a wedding. Clara had gone from marketing consultant to Mafia wife, from victim to player. And while she couldn't predict what tomorrow would bring, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would survive. She would adapt. She would thrive. Because she was Clara Kong now, wife of Incheon's most dangerous man, mother of his heir. And she was done apologizing for taking up space in this violent world. Outside, the harbor lights continued their eternal dance. Ships came and went, carrying cargo and secrets and dreams. And inside the fortress, a new family was being forged in fire and circumstance and unexpected passion. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me what you think happens next in Clara and Ji-hoon's story. Will she embrace the Mafia life completely? Will their enemies strike back? Will they actually fall in love? Let me know your theories below. And check out my other videos for more intense romantic dramas. Until next time, stay safe out there.